What's up, guys? Get a 12 here, and welcome back to another tier list. Yes, the tier lists are back, and with the return of the tier list comes the return of the Spongebob tier list. Spongebob Squarepants tier list. We are now in Season 4. And this is the first Season 2 release after the original Spongebob Squarepants movie. And this was also the first season where Steven Hillenburg, the show's creator, didn't really have a whole lot of involvement. I think he was still kind of a creative consultant or maybe a producer or something, but for the most part he had stepped down from the director's chair, so to speak, with these episodes starting in Season 4. And Season 4 is also the point where it's referred to as the post-movie era. This was also the point where, for some people, the seasonal rot started to kick in for SpongeBob. There was a period of time where SpongeBob for a lot of people, didn't really seem as good as before. It's not really that apparent in this season, or maybe even Season 5, even though people still have there are some episodes that people still consider bad in Season 4 and 5. But for a lot of people, this was kind of just kind of a step down from the first 3 seasons, but we shall see how I think about it. So we're gonna get started here with Season 4. And there's still so much to do, and there's still so many seasons to go through. We still have nine more seasons. Actually, 8 more seasons, because Season 13 isn't out on DVD yet. And Season 10, 11, and 12 probably aren't going to be for a while, because I actually don't have them on DVD yet, even though DVDs for them are available. But as far as I know, Season 13 is still ongoing, so it's not on DVD yet. And I won't do Season 13 until I have it on DVD and watched all the episodes. Anyway, let's get started. All that glitters is not gold. And not gold indeed. This one's kind of meh. Not entirely a fan of this one. Again, I'm not someone that would easily hate an episode. You know, I do think there could be some qualities to it. But, some good qualities to certain episodes, but this one just didn't really hit it as well at it. Mostly because of SpongeBob. The plot is that SpongeBob's spatula breaks because he's trying to cook something called the Monster Krabby Patty. Monster Krabby Patty. Monster Krabby Patty? Which doesn't come up again until the end of the episode, by the way. So, for some reason, SpongeBob's spatula becomes sentient, at least towards the end. There's a whole plot about how SpongeBob tries to replace his spatula at first, and he gets something called Le Spat, which which is also sentient, and it isn't very nice. It's not very nice to SpongeBob, and it's kind of, yeah, not entirely the biggest fan of that. And then, of course, you get the whole thing of SpongeBob crying, constantly doing the It's a bit annoying, and there's some, filler segments of SpongeBob enjoying his time with his old spatula before he had it broken, and for some reason he gets into a sword fight with a pirate with it or something. And then there's the whole thing where SpongeBob actually just shows up in the episode, kind of like Cusco from Emperor's New Groove or something, where he just goes, "All that glitters is not gold," and while the other SpongeBob that's in the episode is crying, and it's just that was unnecessary. see. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be worse, though. But it just comes off as kind of a mean-spirited episode in a way. But there's worse examples of that. At least I'm pretty sure there is. I know I've heard some horror stories about certain episodes down the road, like Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy and One Course Meal. That one's one of the more infamous ones, but we'll get to those when we get to those. Those are in different seasons. For now, yeah, all that glitters. I can't really bring myself to hate it, but it's still kind of a ugh episode. Kind of don't really care too much for it. And here's another episode I don't really care too much for. Best Day Ever. I guess there. We're not really off to the best start here with Season 4, but I assure y'all it does get better. There are some really good episodes this season. Where it just so happens that on this list here, the meh episodes happen to be at the top. Anyway, Best Day Ever. Overhyped and not really all that good of an episode. Like, this was one of the Spongebob episodes that was hyped up a lot by Nickelodeon back when it was premiering. They had like I believe it was a 100 episode long marathon leading up to it. And the episode itself is only like 11 minutes long. You'd think like with an episode like that, they'd hyping up like as much as they did. There would be like a much longer episode with like more story to it or something like that. But like Best Day Ever was kind of more of a meh day because it's just like the whole plot is that SpongeBob wants to have what he calls his best day ever, which is basically him doing the same thing that he does every other day. It feels like it could be more of a best day ever if he did things that he wouldn't normally do. But for the most part, with the exception of Squidward's clarinet recital, like everything that he planned for his best day ever, he could do like on every other day. And you'd think he'd probably do those kind of things more often, like he does the karate with Sandy, and he works at the Krusty Krab, he goes jellyfishing with Patrick. He would probably do those on other days too. And SpongeBob himself actually comes off as kind of selfish in this episode, because when he finally gets into the Squidward clarinet recital, because the bouncer won't let him in for some reason, even though he's later on the VIP list, and yet the bouncer doesn't recognize him. Squidward, of all people, actually put SpongeBob on the VIP list, by the way. So this is probably Squidward. Squidward is probably nicer than he is to SpongeBob in most other episodes. Because besides one thing where he's like, I hate to admit it, but you saved my clarinet recital, he actually acts pretty chill around SpongeBob. He doesn't really like say like, get out of here, you're annoying me, or anything like that. But yeah, SpongeBob comes off as kind of selfish here, because when he finally gets into the clarinet recital, it ends, and then he just goes like, no! This was supposed to be my perfect day! Sit down! This is like, eh. And then, probably my least favorite thing about this whole episode is the song, the Best Day Ever song, which for the most part isn't so bad, but then, for whatever reason, they decide to have SpongeBob say, it's the best day ever, over and over and over again. And they do it like twice. They do it twice in the episode, but it feels like it goes on for like, I don't know, longer than it should. Like you're feeling like Mr. Krabs and Squidward at the end of the episode when they're like, how long do we have to keep this up? Just until it didn't hurt yourself, Squidward. Just until it didn't hurt yourself. Because the rest of the song isn't so bad. It's sung well. It's just that the best day ever part of the song just keeps keeps saying it over and over and over again in the same way too. He always says it the exact same way. It's just, ugh. Not a fan. Not a fan of that. Actually, yeah, maybe I'll just put. Well, I don't know. Should I put it lower than all I put it? Because I do like that SpongeBob's friends do something nice for him in return for all the nice things that he does for them. And I like how Squidward is actually friendly to SpongeBob, of course. Didn't really say anything I liked about all that, but it's all not much now that I think about it. But oh well. Yeah, these episodes is kind of... I can think of probably at least one more episode that might go in the meh. Well, no. For now, let's move on to a much better episode. Best Frenemies. So I'm just gonna say, in my opinion, this is probably Plankton's best season. At least out of the ones that I've seen so far. Like, I haven't seen all the seasons, of course, yet, but Season 4 is, to me, the best season for Plankton, because he actually has... This actually isn't the episode where he has... Because, like, almost every episode with Plankton in it in Season 4 has him pull off a really elaborate scheme that almost works. Like, he really comes off as an evil genius in this season, and I really like it that way. I'll go into more detail about those episodes later, but Best Frenemies has him and Mr. Krabs teaming up because there's a new restaurant selling something called Kelp Shakes that's taking away all their customers, so they team up to steal a secret formula, ironically. And I like how they go back to their old ways at the end of the episode, where Plankton tries to steal the formula, and Mr. Krabs is like, "You're not going anywhere without a 10-second head start." I always like the plots where longtime enemies put aside their differences and work together. And Mr. Krabs and Plankton are no different. I like their interactions when they're trying to work together. And of course they have the fight at one point where it's like, "I'm throwing in the towel, Krabs. I'm the one that's taking all the punishment." Yeah, it's not good. Wasn't a good impression there. Oh well. So yes, I do enjoy Best Frenemies. Very good episode. Born to be Wild. I'll put this one in... Should I put it in good or should I put it in... Because I do think it has some really good jokes in it, even though I actually can't really remember a whole lot of them. I wish I could remember it though, because I did enjoy it, but I guess I'll put it in... I guess I'll put it in great. But it might be like towards the end of great. But I do like some of the jokes in it. Like for some reason, no, not for some reason. Like I do like. There's one scene where SpongeBob they always have the bubble transition in the show. They've had the bubble transition since the first season, and in this episode, SpongeBob actually rides the bubble transition into the next scene. So I thought that's kind of neat. And there's like there's a joke about SpongeBob and Patrick drinking blood. It's a lot funnier than it sounds. And I do like the biker outfits that they eventually have for themselves, SpongeBob and Patrick, and there's a whole gag about Squidward wanting to join the biker gang, the Wild Ones, or as they're actually called, the Mild Ones. Yeah, I think The Born to be Wild is a good episode. Sorry, awkward pause there. Bomber Vacation. Good or... Yeah, I'll put it in good, I guess. So the whole thing here is that SpongeBob has to take a vacation, because if he doesn't take a vacation, then Mr. Krabs has to pay a fee, because SpongeBob hasn't taken any time off since he's begun working at the Krusty Krab. So SpongeBob tries to take a vacation from work, but he can't because he just loves the Krusty Krab too much, and Mr. Krabs has to keep kicking him out of the Krusty Krab. Like, boy, you gotta go on vacation. I like the setting where they go into the kelp forest. I don't know if it is the kelp forest. It looks like the kelp forest, but it's like towards the end. And then there's the Krusty Krab playset that SpongeBob plays with, and the playset plays with the playset. That's a nice little gag there. I still think it's a good episode. Now it almost feels even harder to talk about this season, because we reached a point where, like, seasons 1, 2, and 3 of SpongeBob I've seen multiple times. I've seen those episodes multiple times, so I can, like, quote them much better, can, like, remember a lot more about them. This is the point we've reached the point in the SpongeBob tier list where I'm watching the episodes that I haven't watched a whole lot. Either I'm watching for the first time or I haven't seen it forever, So it's actually even harder to talk about SpongeBob now, when it was already difficult to talk about him before, even with the seasons that I definitely remember a whole lot. Anyway, Chimps Ahoy! Go. I guess I'll put it in great. I like the characters of the chimps that are Sandy's bosses that are coming to see what all she has, all the different science experiments that she has, but Sandy is convinced that she doesn't have anything good to show the chimps, so she's thinking of leaving Bikini Bottom, so SpongeBob and Patrick have to help her stay by having their own invention. And they end up almost messing things up, but then Sandy's Nutcracker saves the day because the Nutcracker's good with peeling bananas. I do think there's some really good gags here. I do like I always said I do like the characters of the chimps. I like their designs and their voices. Like when the one chimp is in the machine that SpongeBob and Patrick build and everything starts going wrong and he's like screaming, and then there's the bigger chimp that goes, I don't remember their names. They all have names, but I forget their names. The bigger chimp's like, you alright? And then he's still, the chimp on the inside is still screaming, and then he says, I'm sorry, was that a yes? And then of course we have Mr. Dr. Professor Patrick. Oh, marvelous! Yeah. Chimps Ahoy. It's a nice episode. It's good fun. Driven to Tears. I'm gonna put this one in great, actually. Driven to Tears. This whole episode is about Patrick. SpongeBob fails his driving test again. So Patrick decides to take it. And he actually passes. He actually gets his license. So Patrick starts being SpongeBob's chauffeur, and he starts showing off that he's got his driver's license. SpongeBob doesn't. SpongeBob's all jealous. I like the boat that Patrick wins. I like all the some of the different. There's some really good gags too, and I like. There's one gag I like where Patrick's saying, "Hey, check it out, SpongeBob's mom and dad. I got my license, but SpongeBob didn't." So they drive away, him and SpongeBob, and then SpongeBob's parents go, even Patrick has a license. My favorite gag in the whole episode, though, I forget exactly what it was, but it was having to do with Mr. Krabs. When Mr. Krabs shows SpongeBob that they got a drive-thru in the Krusty Krab. I think he says something like, "It's always been my dream to have a drive-thru," and then I might be misquoting it, but he says, "It's always been my dream to have a drive-thru," or something like that. And then SpongeBob says, "I used to have a dream," and then Mr. Krabs says, "Yeah, I used to have a kidney stone. Everything passes eventually." That's definitely my favorite joke in the whole episode. I used to have a kidney stone. And I do like the ending where, like, pretty much having his driver's license goes to his head and Patrick starts being a more reckless driver and SpongeBob calling him out on it. Patrick gets in a big traffic accident. Or it causes a bunch of traffic accidents, causes a lot of destruction in Bikini Bottom, and SpongeBob takes the fall, so SpongeBob's in prison, and then when SpongeBob finishes his sentence, he and Patrick have a nice little reunion. They're like, "Yay, best friends! We're still friends again!" It's nice. Quite nice. This is a nice ending. Nice ending, good gags. I like Driven to Tears. Alright, Dungeons and Dragons. This is a fan favorite episode, and for good reason. As to Dungeons and Dragons is the medieval episode of SpongeBob. There's a lot of good little character moments here. Mr. Krabs being the king of the medieval kingdom. Plankton's an evil wizard. And Sandy's a dark knight. Squidward's the king's royal fool. Very much a lot of good gags. I do like how Karen plays the role of like a crystal ball, pretty much. And I think it's funny how the way they do the whole medieval talk thing with Squidward being like, "Dost thou talkest to me?" And then there's another moment where Plankton's like, "Oh, that beeth rich. Can I get a glass of water? Sparkling or regular?" "Psycheth!" "Wow, the boys back home, I'll never believe this. I might hear it, I don't believe it." Yeah. It's got a real good story to it. It's got good action, it's got funny moments. This is one of those SpongeBob episodes that has a little bit of everything, really. So, makes for a really good episode. One of the best specials, too. It's a special episode, and it actually doesn't even have Patchy. This is kind of the point in SpongeBob where like the special episodes would not really feature Patchy. Actually, Patchy and Potty don't even appear at all in this entire season. They took a break this season. Dungeons and Dragons. Classic episode, fan favorite for a very good reason. Very nice. Enemy in Law. It's another Plankton episode, so it's definitely a good one. Basically, Plankton falls in love with Mr. Krabs' mother. And the cool thing about it is that he doesn't even consider the formula at first until Mr. Krabs lets it slip that his mother does know the secret formula. So it's actually a Plankton plot that doesn't focus on the secret formula at first, so it's something different. He actually is in love with Mr. Krabs' mom and isn't just using her as a means to get the formula. At least Mr. Krabs mentions it. And apparently Karen isn't actually Plankton's wife. She's a WIFE. I forget what the letters stand for. Wired something encephalograph, or I don't know. It's odd. It's a nice episode. It's a change of pace from the normal Plankton plots, and Plankton is one of my favorite characters in the show, so it's nice to have him get a lot of focus here. And now for another Plankton episode, Fear of a Krabby Patty. S tier, yet again. Actually. Yeah, right here for now, I guess. These are all three of these are really good. So, Fear of a Krabby Patty. So it's like in Graveyard. So like in Graveyard Shift, Mr. Krabs makes it so that the Krusty Krab is open for 24 hours. And here we actually see the consequences of it. Like Squidward and Spongebob get overworked, especially Spongebob. Spongebob starts hallucinating everyone as Krabby Patties, so it makes them afraid of Krabby Patties, which is exactly what Plankton wanted. Plankton actually tricked Mr. Krabs into opening the Krusty Krab for 24 hours because he was all like, look at this, the Krusty Krab is... not the Krusty Krab, the Chum Bucket is open for 23 hours. And Mr. Krabs like, no, I can do better than that, I'll open for 24 hours. And then Plankton makes it so that SpongeBob has to make an order of 10,000 Krabby Patties with no breaks. Like I said before, this is a really good season for Plankton because he comes up with such elaborate schemes that almost work. He does successfully drive SpongeBob insane, but he also, in the part of playing SpongeBob's therapist in an attempt to get the formula out of him, he accidentally cures him. Because he just gives SpongeBob a good night's sleep, which is all he needed. There's a lot of good guys in this episode, like Squidward. Squidward at one point is going like, look at these bags out of my arm! Even my bags have bags! Woo! And then there's a lot of great jokes with the scene where Plankton's playing the therapist for SpongeBob. When there's like a running gag of SpongeBob hitting Plankton with a piano, and then there's the other part where Plankton makes SpongeBob fall asleep, and then he's like, no, when I snap my fingers, you will wake up. But then SpongeBob doesn't actually wake up when he snaps his fingers, so he tries waking him up by playing music. You know, he's playing musical instruments, he's playing the trumpet, he's playing cymbals, he's playing drums. And then he says, what else is loud and obnoxious? And then he puts a cell phone up to his ear. And there's the other good gag of the montage of SpongeBob slowly going insane from making all the patties. And like all the characters fly by, they're like, day 15, give it up for day 15. K-I, baby. K-I-A-B-B-Y-P-A-T-T-Y says I. And Plankton's laughing, and then you get the random old guy that flies by in the montage. He's like, wait, what's going on? Whoa. Fear of a Krabby Patty, classic episode. It's actually the first episode of the season, and definitely started on a high note. Definitely off to a great start. Funny Pants. Good or meh? I don't know, I guess meh. I think part of the thing that makes this meh for me is SpongeBob's laughing at the beginning. For whatever reason, they decide to add a squeaky effect to SpongeBob's laugh to make it more annoying than it usually is. So that helps Squidward just get fed up with SpongeBob's laugh. And Well, I don't know. Like, for whatever reason, the episode just isn't really that memorable. There's the moment at the end where Squidward actually does break his laugh box. Like, the whole plot is that Squidward makes up a story about how if SpongeBob laughs too much, he'll break his laugh box. So SpongeBob's trying not to laugh so that he won't break his laugh box. But then for some reason he can't laugh anymore. But Squidward says, "No, I made it all up. You fell for it, I made it all up." So he starts laughing, and then he breaks his laugh box, and then SpongeBob ends up giving him part of his own laugh box. Which is a nice little moment, but I mean, they just rely too much on the laughter being annoying, and it is kind of annoying, really. Not a whole lot of funny gags, actually. Well, there is a moment where when Squidward's telling about how, "Oh no, you're gonna break your laugh box, SpongeBob, if you use laugh box too long without giving it a break, it burns out. You'll never be able to laugh again." And then SpongeBob says, "Is that what happened to you, Squidward?" And Squidward just says, "Yes." Wait, no. That's a good moment there. But yeah, the laughter can get kind of annoying, so that just makes me put it in there. Ghost Toast. Yeah, I'll put this one in great. I think this is one of the better appearances of the Flying Dutchman in the series. The whole plot with him here is that he crashed his ship, so he has to wait for it to be repaired, so he's crashing at SpongeBob's house until it's repaired. And much like Can You Spare a Dime, he does wear out his welcome, and SpongeBob gets annoyed with him being around. First he gets bored because the Flying Dutchman pulls some scary pranks on him one too many times that SpongeBob just gets too used to it, and he just gets bored of it. And then the Flying Dutchman starts inviting all of his friends into SpongeBob's house and causes a bunch of trouble there, so SpongeBob gets fed up with that. But this goes a different direction in that SpongeBob actually tries to help the Flying Dutchman get out of his funk because he's just convinced that he's just not scary anymore, so he becomes a bum. He tries to, when SpongeBob gets too used to it, he tries to scare someone other than SpongeBob, but he's not very successful there, so that's when he becomes a bum and he just gives up on his past life. So and that's when he invites his friends around and annoys SpongeBob, and then SpongeBob tries to help the Flying Dutchman with his getting his confidence back. And he eventually does, because he's able to scare Squidward, who apparently doesn't believe in ghosts, even though he has met the Flying Dutchman before, so that's a bit of a continuity error. But, oh well. Of course, SpongeBob's not very good with continuity anyway, so it shouldn't be too surprised, but still kind of weird that Squidward doesn't believe in ghosts that way. Alright. Good Neighbors. Actually, one thing. I'm gonna mention something more about Ghostbusters. They use a lot of creepy, scary visuals here, but it's not that scary. It's actually kind of neat, the amount of different visuals they do. Kind of colorful in a way. So, that's another thing to like about the episode. Nice little character development for SpongeBob and Flying Dutchman. They actually become friends somewhat in that episode, so it's nice. I still like Shanghai more, but this probably might be my second favorite appearance of the Flying Dutchman, at least for now. I don't know how other appearances are for him, but yeah, Ghost Toast is my second favorite Flying Dutchman-centered Flying Dutchman centered episode. Excuse me. Now we have Good Neighbors. So Good Neighbors is considered one of the more infamous episodes of SpongeBob. It is considered the episode in which, for a lot of fans, this is the episode where it finally kicked in that SpongeBob just wasn't what it used to be. This was the part where the seasonal rot really started to show for some fans. So what do I think of it? Actually not that bad. I don't know if I would say it's good. I guess I'll put it in bad. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I do think it does have some funny moments. And I don't think that SpongeBob and Patrick are exceedingly annoying. They at least do try to make things up to Squidward when they unfortunately mess up his plans one too many times. Squidward's just trying to have a relaxing Sunday, but SpongeBob and Patrick just keep getting in the way. But they do try to apologize for their actions. They try to be good neighbors, but according to Squidward, they're the worst neighbors ever! It's still calling me president. My problem with this episode is that Squidward just goes kind of back and forth in terms of his character here. Like one moment he's sympathetic because he's just trying to have a relaxing Sunday, but through no fault of his own, bad luck keeps happening to him. But then he acts like an evil psycho, just trying to get rid of SpongeBob and Patrick, and he's got his security when he eventually gets a security system, which for whatever reason is able to turn his house into like a robot, like a giant robot or something when it goes wrong, when he like drops the cake on it, or SpongeBob accidentally drops the cake on the security system. The security system is actually kind of boogie. I do like one moment that I think is funny. It was when Squidward actually does get kicked out of his house and his house goes on a rampage. Squidward actually is happy about this because SpongeBob and Patrick are inside his house, so they're not around to bug him, so he can have time to himself. He's like, I'm gonna relax if it kills me, and he relaxes on a rock and pretty much breaks his back. So I really don't know how he got comfortable there. Yeah, the episode might be kind of a bit mean-spirited and a little dumb, but I really don't think it's that bad. I do think there's still some good gags to it. Squidward's meltdown of them saying that they're like the worst neighbors is a pretty memorable scene, for better or worse. And Squidward's house going on a rampage is also memorable. Also for better or worse. So, Good Neighbors. Could have been worse, could have been better. Whatever. Have you seen this snail? Yeah. Alright. Oh, it's good. Good episode. Good little development for SpongeBob where he's trying to find Gary because Gary runs away because SpongeBob kept ignoring him because of the Dirty Bubble Challenge. There's some good gags with Patrick and nice song with Gary with good visuals, and there's some other good gags. Like SpongeBob and Patrick accidentally spell Lisa, will you marry me? With clouds in the sky, and this random couple's like, the girl says, who is this Lisa person? Whoop. And then there's the old lady that takes Gary in, Kind of creepy, but still pretty memorable. This is pretty much the most Gary-focused episode, probably, of the whole series, at least so far. There's probably going to be other episodes later, like A Pal for Gary, or... Or... Well, yeah, whatever. Those episodes fine. Not enough special. Hocus pocus. I'll put that in here. This one's kind of forgettable, really. Like the whole thing is that SpongeBob thinks that he turned Squidward into a ice cream cone using a magic kit. And then he discovers that magic is fake or whatever. And like Patrick gets involved. And there's this other character who I forget his name, who like passes himself off as a magician when he really isn't. He's more of a nerd or something like that. And it's just not a very memorable episode, really. I could hardly remember anything from it, even though it's actually one of the episodes I saw recently, because it's like one of the later episodes of the season. So, that's kind of a bummer. Karate Island. Yet another Meh episode. Oh my goodness, the Meh episodes are piling up. This doesn't look good. Still, at least we haven't had a Barnacles episode yet. So Karate Island. It seems like it could be a good episode, but I have two problems with it, and it's mostly about the first half. For one thing, SpongeBob acts like a jerk for most of this. Well, not for most of the episode. For like the first half of the episode, SpongeBob acts like a jerk because he's convinced that he's the king of karate because he got invited to a place called Karate Island and Sandy didn't. And he's saying like this, like Sandy comes along to support him, but SpongeBob's all like, Mr. Udon isn't interested in a karate novice like you. He only has time for royalty. Do I detect a hint of jealousy, Sandy? Like, for whatever reason, he just starts acting like a jerk, and it's just like, this is not fun. And there's another thing, the other thing that bothers me is how Sandy says, according to Sandy, like, her karate is better than SpongeBob's by a country mile, which is incorrect because, as the Season 1 episode Karate Choppers shows, they're pretty evenly matched. So, I don't know why Sandy would be better at well, I can buy that she would be better at karate than SpongeBob is, but I don't buy that she's super duper better than he is. So I just think that's just kind of not really good continuity there. And then the second half has Sandy go up against all these different opponents to try and get SpongeBob back, because SpongeBob gets stuck in a trap, like he gets kidnapped or whatever. So Sandy has to fight off different people to get to him, and then she fights the master, who is Udon, who's actually voiced by the guy who played Mr. Miyagi in the old Karate Kid movies. So that's a nice little bit of trivia there. And there's a good fight scene between her and Udon at the end, even though it's it's short, it's still a good fight scene. But other than that, I just didn't really get into this episode a whole lot, mostly because of the first half. The first half was just kind of Alright. Now, these next couple of episodes are actually going to be a pretty good batch. Crabs vs. Plankton. S tier. I do enjoy this episode quite a bit. Krabs and Plankton pretty much take their rivalry to court because Plankton gets the idea to sue Mr. Krabs for everything that he owns, which includes the secret formula. All because he tripped in the Krusty Krab. There's no wet floor sign in the Krusty Krab, so Plankton pretends to be seriously injured so that he has a good excuse to sue Mr. Krabs. And SpongeBob plays the role of lawyer to Mr. Krabs. So there's a lot of good gags there with SpongeBob having a mop at the stand. He has Squidward at the stand when Squidward refuses to testify to Mr. Krabs. He's like, "Oh no, Mr. Krabs is cheap. Whatever, can I go home now?" And there's a lot of good gags with SpongeBob trying to open the case that the old lawyer that Mr. Krabs almost had. Mr. Krabs almost had an actual lawyer be his lawyer, but then the lawyer slipped and fell in the Krusty Krab because there was no wet floor sign. So he got too injured to make it to the courtroom. Another good addition to the Plankton plots. It's a nice little twist on the plot. Good gags, good setting, good characters. It's a good episode. Definitely one of my favorites of the season. Krusty Towers. Probably my favorite episode of this season. This is the one I remember the most out of all the episodes of the season. Has Mr. Krabs opening a hotel called the Krusty Towers, where the motto is, "We shall never deny a guest, even the most ridiculous request." So, Patrick becomes a guest at the hotel. SpongeBob and Squidward become employees at the hotel. Squidward gets sick of all the ridiculous requests that Patrick makes, so he decides to throw the Krusty Towers motto back in Mr. Krabs' face by quitting his job at Krusty Towers, and then immediately checking in as a guest so he can just get back at Mr. Krabs. He could make all the ridiculous requests himself. And I do like a lot of the ridiculous requests they actually come up with. One of my favorite gags is when Squidward makes Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob remodel his room. And I like all the different designs they come up with for Squidward's room. And then there's a good gag where there's a good scene where Squidward asks that Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob send up cookies just like Mother used to make. And then he's like, "No, these don't taste anything like Mother used to make." "Well, how did your mother make them? How should I know? Ask my mother." And they play it up like SpongeBob and SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs are going to kidnap Squidward's mother, and that they beat her up to kidnap her. But no, they actually just bring her along, no problem. There's a bait and switch gag where you think they stuffed her in a bag and stuffed her in the trunk, but they can't fit her in the trunk because there's not enough room, so they beat her up with a shovel or slam the trunk down on her, but it's actually not her in the bag and the trunk. It's actually Mr. Krabs' laundry, so Squidward's mother actually closes the trunk for them. "Allow me, boy." I also like that this is one of the few episodes where SpongeBob and Squidward actually get along for the most part. Especially when Squidward actually becomes a guest at the Krusty Towers. He doesn't use it to get back at. He doesn't use the whole "we shall never deny a guest even the most ridiculous request" thing to get back at SpongeBob. He uses it to get back at Mr. Krabs. And SpongeBob is, more than happy to fulfill the request because, he's just that kind of guy who loves working, so he'll do anything. And Mr. Krabs, meanwhile, just keeps getting progressively more and more annoyed with Squidward's ridiculous requests, and then we get the nice scene at the end where SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward are all in the swimming pool together, and they're actually all having a good time, and it's actually pretty nice to see them all getting along for once. And then you get the gag at the end where the hotel actually gets destroyed, and Mr. Krabs gets the idea instead of hotels, hospitals are where the money is, because they got injured from the hotel getting destroyed, so they all ended up in the hospital. So Mr. Krabs gets a pretty expensive hospital bill, and it's like, no, this hospital's where the money is. Pack your bags, boys. You're going to medical school. Hooray! Oh boy. There's a lot of other good gags too. Like there's another moment where Squidward asks that he wants this room service, and he wants a Krabby Patty with cheese, toenail clippings, and nose hairs. Which Mr. Krabs like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So many good gags here. Patrick signing into the hotel, but he ends up doing like a drawing of him as like a Godzilla monster, and the planes are shooting him. Patrick stole all the cheese, so SpongeBob actually couldn't make a Krabby Patty with cheese, toenail clippings, and nose hairs. He could only make a Krabby Patty with toenail clippings and nose hairs. No cheese. Sorry, Mr. Krabs, we were all out of cheese. Hooray! Yes, Crossfade Towers, definitely my favorite episode of season 4. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 6, the motion picture. Oh, let's see. Do I put this here? Do I put this here? This is and now it's hers. This is hers and now it's his. Yeah, I'll put that. Yeah, I'll put this here. I'll put it in this tier. Or do I put it in there tier? No, I'll put it in there tier. Yeah. So this is the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode of the season, of course. So SpongeBob and Patrick discover that they're making a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie, but they're not having the actual Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy play Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Instead, they're using actors. So yep, so SpongeBob and Patrick instead decide to make their own Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie with the actual Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. So there's a lot of good movie-making gags to go around in this episode. You have Sandy being the boom operator. Did somebody say boom? And Plankton tries to play the role of Man Ray because he's like, SpongeBob, this one was made for me. But instead he gets to operate the boom mic. Squidward is the makeup artist for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, and the makeup he puts on the two of them is just hilariously ridiculous. And then there's Pearl playing the role of the invisible boatmobile, even though it's supposed to be invisible! Very good episode, very fun. Mrs. Puff, you're fired. I'll put it in great. So this, of course, has to do with Mrs. Puff being fired. And SpongeBob gets a new boating school teacher who's a very fun character, actually. He's I forget what his name is. I don't even know if he does have a name, but the driving instructor here, he's very good character. He's a shark, and he's got like a real deep voice. I don't know if the voice is in. But he puts SpongeBob through really big through a really difficult obstacle course, and SpongeBob actually does become a good driver, but the catch is that he's only a good driver when he's wearing a blindfold. So that's ironic. This is probably the best that SpongeBob actually is at driving, but he can only drive so well because he's blinded. So there's a real... the highlight is definitely the obstacle course that the driving instructor makes for SpongeBob, and then there's the driving instructor himself. He's just such a fun, minor character. I really do like that character. I do think it's kind of... I'm not entirely the biggest fan about how Mrs. Puff is super duper happy to be fired because she doesn't want it, she won't teach SpongeBob anymore. It's like, yes, I'm finally away from that homicidal maniac. It's just like, this is kind of not nice there, Mrs. Puff. Though, from what I've heard, she's had a much worse personality in a later episode, but we'll get to that episode when we get to that episode. So yeah, Miss Puff, you're fired. Good fun episode. New Leaf. I will also put in S tier. Another Plankton episode, so that definitely means that I really like it, as I always say with this season. And Plankton's just a really good season for Plankton. So this one has to deal with Plankton turning over a new leaf, as the title says. He's trying to trick Mr. Krabs into thinking that he's quitting out on stealing the formula, and instead he's owning a knick-knack shop. But as it turns out, at the end of the episode, it reveals that it was all a ruse. It was all a ruse as an attempt to win back Mr. Krabs' friendship, bury the hatchet so that he could get the secret formula for himself. And he does manage to get the secret formula for himself because Mr. Krabs actually does become friends with him. Except that he doesn't get the secret formula because Mr. Krabs played him all along. He tricked them into thinking that he would give the formula over, and it's not actually the formula that he gives Plankton at the end. But there's a lot of good moments with Mr. Krabs and Plankton, a lot of good interactions. This is basically like the prototype episode for the Best Frenemies episode that comes up later. So, yeah, good episode. Memorable. I love the interactions with Mr. Krabs and Plankton. It's a good episode. Once Bitten. I'll say it's good, although I don't entirely remember this one very well. Basically, Gary gets a splinter, so he starts acting all rowdy and he starts biting everybody, and everybody thinks that he has mad snail disease or whatever. So they treat it like a zombie apocalypse or something. But it turns out he just has a splinter, so he's not actually a rabid dog or whatever. It's just not a very memorable episode. Actually, I'll probably do it. Just not a very memorable episode. I can't really remember a whole lot of good gags with it. It's one of those episodes I haven't seen very often, so I don't tend to remember it as well. Patrick Smartpants. I'll say this is a great episode. Put it... there. So Patrick Smartpants. Patrick becomes smart because he loses his head in an accident. So SpongeBob accidentally puts on a new head that he gets from Brain Coal. So Patrick becomes super smart. Super smart and snobby. I do like the development of how the new smart Patrick event at first wants nothing to do with SpongeBob, but then he's like, oh, so much knowledge, but no one to share it with. Who's that old chap that I used to run with? SpongeBob. So actually has a good little scene of him remembering all the good times, and he's like, where did all the times go? Oh, I'd do anything to have my friend by my side again. So we get to see the smart side of Patrick, so it's a nice change of pace. Good friendship between SpongeBob and Patrick. Lots of good moments. Good gags. Good gags with both the dumb Patrick and the smart Patrick. Oh, absolutely! So, an episode. Good one. Rule of Dumb. Yeah. So this was probably one of the first episodes where Patrick gets his jerk characterization, where he starts acting like a really big jerk to everybody. And there's a lot of, from what I heard, there's a lot of episodes like that throughout the series, and this is like the first example of it. So he's convinced that he's become king, so believes that means he has to own everything. Everything belongs to him because he's king. And he just becomes such a jerk here, and it's just not really that fun to watch, so... Like, even he... Like, they're trying to make the whole excuse that he became a jerk because he became king, but... Nah, it's just... seems kind of flimsy. Just not a very fun episode. It's pretty meh. Then it turns out that Gary's the real king at the end, so... Alright, cool. Selling out. I will put this one in great. I'll put it... There. So, this is a Mr. Krabs-centered episode. This is where he sells the Krusty Krab and retires, but then he discovers that the Krusty Krab has been turned into, well, not what he wants. He doesn't want automated cash registers, he doesn't want synthesized patties. It's just all not right to him. I do like the setting of the Krabby on Mondays, different look to it than the Krusty Krab. I like the gag of Mr. Krabs getting quickly bored of his retirement life. And there's like a one moment where he's actually playing golf, but then he goes, wait a minute, I hate golf! Well, I've done everything that I've wanted to do, and it's not even noon. This is like one of those episodes where Mr. Krabs learns the errors of his ways when it comes to his greed. But old habits die hard, he still really does enjoy money at the end. So there's still that. Alright. So, yeah, selling out. Good episode. Nice episode. Shell of a Man. I will also put in this. So, this is one of the few episodes of the season where Mr. Krabs' greed actually doesn't come up at all. We see a different side of Mr. Krabs' character where he's trying to have a reunion with his old Navy buddies. But unfortunately, he outgrows his shell, so he's all pink and flat. He's all pink and flabby. He doesn't have his armor abs anymore, and he's so embarrassed by it that he gets SpongeBob to pretend to be him so that he can impress his Navy buddies. But then you get the scene at the end where Mr. Krabs decides to actually reveal the truth about what happened to him to his Navy buddies, and then his Navy buddies reveal that they have their own secrets. He's like, I have a confession. These are fake! I had my torpedo belly removed long ago. So, it's a nice episode that focuses on a different side of Mr. Krabs' character, and SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs actually get along real well here. It's not like Mr. Krabs uses SpongeBob as a means to an end like he does in other episodes going forward. Like, they actually have kind of the mentor-student relationship here, you know, the father-son relationship that they sometimes have. It's a nice episode, lots of good character interactions, lots of good gags. Skill Crane! Another S-tier episode. I enjoy this one. This one's another Squidward torture episode, but much like Squid's Day Off, it's actually Squidward torturing himself. Mr. Krabs gets a claw machine into the Krusty Krab and Skill Crane, and Squidward becomes obsessed with actually winning at the Skill Crane. He's never able to win it because, you know, claw machines are evil. They always trick you. They never work properly. And so Squidward can never seem to win at the Skill Crane. But SpongeBob can always win, and I like how because SpongeBob can always win and he's so skilled at it, he eventually decides to actually help Squidward get his own win. He's like, be the crane, Squidward, be the crane. And I do like how Squidward takes his victory too far. When he finally does win, he becomes convinced that he can be the crane, like anywhere, even with like an actual crane. And there's a nice little moment where Squidward actually does lose control of the construction crane that he's piloting, and he's like, "Look out, SpongeBob! I can't stop!" So he's looking out for SpongeBob. He just doesn't want to, you know, run him over or kill him or anything. So it's a nice little scene there. And then of course Squidward going mad with trying to win the crane. That's really entertaining. Mr. Krabs is pretty greedy here, but it is actually funny this time around. I do enjoy Skill Crane. Good episode. Squidward. I guess I'll put it in meh. The thing that makes this meh for me is the behavior of the Bikini Bottomites. They treat Squidward like crap, but they, for whatever reason, like the Squidward puppet. Like, they treat the Squidward puppet as if the Squidward puppet is the Squidward puppet that SpongeBob carries around. They treat the Squidward puppet. It's called Mini Squid, actually. They treat Mini Squid as if he's actually real and not a puppet, so it just comes off as stupid. And then, of course, they make fun of Squidward and it's like, oh, talk about no talent. Oh, maybe Squidward should get self reduction surgery so he'll dance better. It's one of those episodes where it's just like, nah, why? Just, nah. Alright. Spongebob tentacle pants. Here. I'll put it in good. So this episode has SpongeBob and Squidward fusing together. Because of Sandy's device. Sandy's teleportation device causes SpongeBob and Squidward to fuse together, and they have to live their lives as fused until Sandy can cure them. I like all the different forms of the fused SpongeBob and Squidward. and I like how the Bikini Bottom guys actually react to them. They're like, "Rock on, freaky bro." It's a nice enough episode. Pretty memorable for the plot that it is. Good. Squidtastic Voyage. Also gonna put this in S tier. So Squidtastic Voyage has to do with Squidward's clarinet reed getting stuck in his throat, so Sandy volunteers to actually go inside Squidward so that she can remove the reed from his esophagus, but then SpongeBob and Patrick end up going inside him instead. They get in the stub, they shrink the stub, they go inside Squidward. So it's a nice unique setting, there's a lot of good gags in it. And I like the gag at the end of Patrick hitting the grow button on the sub while the sub is still inside Squidward, so Squidward has a oversized submarine belly when he goes to the Krusty Krab at the end. And Mr. Krabs actually has concern for him there. He's like, "Wait, what's got into you? You're too preserver." So it's nice. Squidward actually, Mr. Krabs, for like his very brief appearance, is actually more concerned for Squidward than he is of his own money or anything like that. And again, still a lot of good gags. The beginning part where I like how the beginning part of SpongeBob and Patrick dancing at the beginning, it actually comes back to help get the reed out of Squidward's throat at the end. It's a nice little come full circle moment there. That's no lady. I'll put it in rates. Even though I don't actually remember this one too well because it's another episode I haven't seen very much of, but it is still funny. I do like how, like, the basic plot is that Patrick tries to disguise himself as a woman because he's convinced that someone wants him out of Bikini Bottom, so he's trying to disguise himself so that the guy won't find him. He disguises himself as a woman, and Mr. Krabs and Squidward fall in love with him. It's a really good payoff at the end when they actually find out that it's Patrick and not a woman. Good episode, funny. The Gift of Gum. I'll put it in good. So, Patrick gets SpongeBob a big, huge, gross wad of gum for Friendship Day, and SpongeBob tries to get rid of the gum. So, some good visuals here. Good character moments. It's a fine enough episode. The Lost Mattress. Another S tier episode. Excuse me. Kind of stuffy. So Lost Mattress has to deal with Mr. Krabs having a lumpy mattress, so SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward decide to get him a new one. Unfortunately, his lumpy mattress turns out to have all of his money in it. So, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward have to get back the lumpy mattress from the dump, and it's guarded by a worm. I like the gags of SpongeBob and Patrick trying out different mattresses, and I like the gag of Squidward trying to get SpongeBob and Patrick to get hurt by the worm, but he ends up getting hurt instead. SpongeBob and Patrick at one point disguise themselves as steaks, and Squidward says, "Alright, put on this pullover," and they're like, "Steak sauce?" And then Patrick's like, give me that cologne. Good episode, a lot of funny moments, a lot of good character moments. Nice memorable episode. The Pink Purloiner. Excuse me. So let's see. This is basically the... I can't watch this episode and not think of Among Us, because the whole time SpongeBob thinks that Patrick is acting sus, because SpongeBob's most prized jellyfish net, Old Reliable, is stolen, or he thinks it's stolen and he thinks that Patrick stole it, but it wasn't Patrick that stole it. He just left it on the bus. They went to like a jellyfish. It was like a jellyfish migration holiday where they can catch a whole bunch of different jellyfish they don't normally see. And SpongeBob wanted to use Old Reliable to catch them. And Patrick's like, I'd kill for a net like that. But of course, as it turns out, Patrick did not steal it. And I do like how, like, the whole time SpongeBob does actually suspect Patrick. And when he finally does openly call Patrick out, he finally accuses him of stealing Old Reliable. And then Patrick's just like, what? That's like, it sounds really funny the way he goes, what? That's definitely my favorite part of the whole episode right there. So yeah, he's definitely in the great. Actually, I might put it. I'll put it there. Yeah, sure. Alright. Next up we have The Thing. Good. So, Squidward turns into a cement monster pretty much, and SpongeBob and Patrick take care of him. And it's almost like another version of jellyfishing in a way. I like it fine. They at least try to make Squidward feel better, and they don't know that it's Squidward, so they're just thinking it's them trying to take care of a pet, like a lost creature or whatever. And there's some nice visuals here. I actually like the look of the cement monster Squidward. So, a lot of nice character moments there. Just a fine episode. Good fine episode. Whale of a Birthday. Yeah, put this one in there. Reason why I'm putting this one in there is because not really a fan of Mr. Krabs in this episode. Like, this is the first episode where they play it off like Mr. Krabs. He does care about money. Like with Mr. Krabs' character, he cares about money and he cares about Pearl. This episode makes it seem like he cares about money, but he doesn't care about Pearl at all. Like, he doesn't bother to give her a good birthday party. He always acts cheap. And he's like, and there's like one moment where he says, Nothing's too good for Pearl. I was gonna get her nothing for her birthday, but apparently that's too good for her, or something like that. It's just like, come on, Mr. Krabs. Because it's like one of those moments where the Flanderization of Mr. Krabs definitely starts to set in. They basically only focus on his greed and almost nothing else. It just really comes off like he doesn't care for Pearl all that much in this episode, which is sad because, she's his daughter. But he doesn't really make that good of an effort to make her happy on her birthday, so it's just like, why? Although I do like that, there is one thing I like about this episode, is that unlike Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob actually does make an effort to make Pearl happy. He follows Pearl around, Pearl always gushes at something that she likes, so SpongeBob ends up buying it with Mr. Krabs' credit card. So SpongeBob actually helps out Pearl in the end. Nice of him. But yeah, otherwise not really that much of a fan of this episode. Week struck. I'll put this one in good as well. There's some good gags in this episode. I like the visual of SpongeBob actually wearing the wig. The thing that drags this episode down for me is the completely useless subplot about the band. Like there's one member of a band who's actually wearing the wig that SpongeBob gets, and they focus on the band. It's like, oh, if you don't have hair, then we're not gonna make you perform or something like that. It's just kind of like unnecessary. It just comes off as like padding and filler or whatever. I think it would have been just fun if like the wig just came out of nowhere and SpongeBob decided, hey, a wig, yay! And there's still some good gags. Like I do like how there's some good gags about the Bikini Bottom Bites making fun of him. It's like, off to meet the Queen, Sir Leroy. The funniest gag though is definitely when the angry mob chases Bob and Sandy out of the movie theater, and the employees working at the movie theater, one of them goes to another, I told you that movie was terrible. So, that's definitely a really good gag. But, yeah, the subplot about the band kind of drags this episode down. It's almost in meh, but it's like, nah, it's still fine. It's still fine enough. Wishing you well. Also put this one in great. So Wishing You Well has Mr. Krabs put a wishing well in the Krusty Krab so he can make more money. And he puts SpongeBob in charge of the well. There's a lot of good gags between SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward getting stuck in the well. It's basically like another version of SpongeBob in a way. And I like how the wishes for characters actually do come true at the end. Sandy gets a telescope, Plankton gets to be taller, Mrs. Puff gets to be a hot rod mama. I like that moment there. It's one of my favorite gags in the episode. And then you get the payoff at the end of Mr. Krabs being like, oh, I don't believe in magic. Here, I wish I was steamed and served with a side of melted butter. And then he gets this, that. I don't believe in magic, oh no! So, like the setting of the well, like the character interactions, like the gags. Just an all-around good episode. Okay, so that was season 4. You can tell this is a pretty mixed season. I can't really bring myself to hate any of the episodes that I'm just like meh on, but on the other hand, that is quite a lot of meh episodes there. Man. Yeah, it's just... Wait a second, I remember that one a bit more. No, right there. Yeah, there's quite a lot of meh episodes this season. This is the season with the most meh episodes so far. But on the other hand, there is some really good episodes this season. Like, I really like all of the S tier episodes here. They're all really good. There's a good chunk of S tier episodes this season. Krusty Towers, of course, being my favorite. And as I've already said numerous times before, this is the best season for Plankton. Like, this is the season where my opinion is actually he deserves credit as the evil genius that he is. He comes up with a bunch of elaborate schemes to try to get the Krabby Patty formula, and almost all of them work. They almost all work out for him. He comes very close to getting the formula in almost all the episodes that involve him. So that's really cool. That's really cool, actually. They actually paint him out to be kind of a legitimate threat for the Krusty Krab this season, which is kind of a far cry from how they'll portray him next season, which I feel like is, I think season 5 is when they start making him kind of more incompetent in a way. But we'll get to that. I still haven't finished watching season 5 yet, and we'll get to season 5 when we get to season 5. But for now, thank y'all for watching, and get ready for more tier lists, more Spongebob tier lists, different tier lists too, as well as other videos coming up. Still got plenty more ideas in mind. So, everybody have a good day, take it easy, stay safe. See y'all next time. Bye!